So they're showing like the pendulum swing and how we really want to be balanced within oneself and whatever that means for us, where our even keel is, where our peace and calm is, right? And so of course that's going to be different for everybody. Like somebody could be like super hyper and happy, but that's actually their calm middle ground. They could go much higher than that and much lower than that. And so it's that idea of finding one's balance and knowing where that is. And whenever we're out of balance, on whatever extreme we're at, that's kind of like, what's that problem, right? That's the problem to figure out. So it's like, I've referenced it before with extremes of like depression. So it's like when you're looking outside yourself to people please. So you might not have even necessarily started out that way, but you had recognized at some point you were being you, and maybe you were really hyper or excited or whatever the case may be, and it seemed to please others. And so you realized, oh, I do this and people are pleased. So you started to do that more and more and more. But you were leaving yourself every time you did that. You were no longer authentically doing that or behaving in said way. You were now seeking out that feeling, that rush, that high, that approval, that validation, whatever the case may be, from that outside oneself. And so you would, it's almost, it's like you would generate, you would genetically modify yourself. You would form and mold to fit what was expected of you, because you made it that pattern at some point. And what you found to be pleasing to others, that would give you the validation or hit you wanted. And what goes up comes down. So then you would swing that high, but then you would at times bounce all the way down, whether it was recognition or not that you were putting forth so much effort because it wasn't authentic, right? It wasn't truly your authentic self. So you were generating it falsely, right? You were manufacturing it and it was pumping out of you and it was challenging. And so it's like you automatically drop. And so it's also that understanding that in that drop, whether, again, you realize it or not, it's like you realize that it's not authentically you and that you were looking outside oneself, which means you abandon yourself, which is gut-wrenching. And so, again, you might not have been able to put words around that or recognize why you were so depressed, but it's depressed because you failed yourself. You abandoned yourself. You left yourself to get outside oneself, which is fleeting. It can't last. And then you get addicted to those swings. You get addicted to being that high, that character, that Mickey Mouse, that like puppet, that whatever it takes to get that attention, that fill, that validation, that acceptance, that quote love. It's not love, but it's that approval outside oneself. And then the swing down. So you become addicted to the swings, not because it's authentically you, but because you're seeking outside oneself and you've left oneself. And so this can happen with whatever it is that you're doing. And so then you have to be able to stop the pendulum swing. And so you've heard me reference it. It's like God's a narcissist, right? Because you're just mirroring, you're just putting out, you're just getting back what you're putting out. You just have to understand what the fuck is going on. You have to slow down enough to understand what the fuck is going on. And so when you can see it this way, when you can see more clearly, you can treat life, love, truth, authenticity with that understanding. You just have to be you. And when you swing either way out of your authentic self, when you abandon your truth, when you abandon alignment, when you abandon you, you're going to feel it. It is that high or that low that comes rushing in, right? We call it karma or dharma. We call it the angel or the devil. We call it God or the devil. We call it all types of shit. And I've referenced it where it's like, you got to play the fucking dead rock. God's a narcissist. He'll give you attention whichever way you seek. So you wanna swing up high like that? Go ahead and you'll get more of that, and you're gonna burn the fuck out because it's not authentically you. And then you automatically drop down to the devil and you're depressed and you can't get out of it and you're screaming to get back up high. And then you get back up high and then it's this nightmare of a roller coaster that you'll forever be on until you stop chasing outside oneself. When you learn what it means to fully love you, to be authentically you, to stand in your truth. When you understand that, and you can get back to your center. So you got to play the dead rock. Otherwise, it is like the lion playing with mice. Happy to play with you any which way you'd like. Until you learn, you don't learn. You have to learn. You have to figure it out. You got to slow down. You got to see what you're doing. You got to see where you're coming from. And it's coming from the ego. And again, it's not, please understand, it's not always malicious. As a matter of fact, 9 times out of 10, it's not malicious. I really do believe that still. I know if you've been listening to me, you're probably laughing, but I really believe 9 times out of 10, it is not malicious. Yes, some turn malicious. Yes, sometimes people start to know what they're doing and they're just so pissed off and down there. They start to be, it is like evil intent. We're not talking about that. We're talking about you. We're talking about the 99% out there that just can't fucking figure it out because they've been so far from themselves for so fucking long, and they can't slow down because they're addicted to whatever they're addicted to. So it can just even be a behavior. It can be a thought process. It can be anything. They're hinging. It's a mishinge somewhere. So again, just in this simple example, it was the mishinge of I have to behave in a certain way, super high, super pleasing, super accommodating, being basically the monkey to cater to those outside myself. I had to do a song and a dance, and then I'll be approved of. Then I'll be accepted. Then I'll be loved. Then I'll be validated. Then I'll be worthy. Then I'll be enough. And of course, you quickly then realize, oh no. No. You were just the entertainment of the moment, and it's fleeting, and then you crash down, and then you work yourself back up, or maybe you sniff out the fix because somebody comes along and you do a song and a dance, and it gets you back up high, and then they leave, and you're back down low. So it's this constant bobbing and weaving. Other people, it's the same thing. They're looking to get one of these things likely, and they can do it in a form of sex, drugs, alcohol. They can do it there's a billion of them. What I was referencing is even just a behavior pattern that is not authentically who that person is, right? They're exhausted from putting on a show. They're exhausted from having to be, quote, on all the time. I think in the example that they first had me talking about this recently, I mean, I talk about it all the time, but in like this line of thinking and talk was, and it was, oh God, I think I put it out in end of February, beginning of March, and I think I referenced Robin Williams, where it's like the perfect example where, he got a high from pleasing others. He got a high from people being happy, because it does. I mean, I can very much relate to that. It's like when those around you are happy, you feel happy. One, you're thrilled to hear people laughing and having a good time, and you feel like you can finally relax because everybody's relaxed. Nobody's going to fucking lose their shit or God knows what, or start a fight or argue or bicker or punch or say name. None of that. Everybody's happy. Great. Everybody's happy. And, it's like then you get depressed because, again, you can't entertain everybody 24/7. You can't, quote, keep the peace. It's not being at peace with oneself. It's not authentic to oneself. And it's manipulative, and it's thinking you can control outside oneself. So it's like having to learn to get back to oneself and allow people to misbehave. That doesn't mean you have to misbehave. It doesn't mean you have to defend. It doesn't mean you have to stick around. It doesn't mean anything. Stop hinging any meaning to it at all. You're not responsible for other people's behavior, nor can you control them. But you can control yours, and you can control your mind, and you can control your thoughts, which control your emotions, which can help you get back to your center, get back to your authentic self. And that takes time and practice and understanding and recognition and ownership and the willingness to take ownership of your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, your responses, what the fuck is going on, and taking control of them and making the change. Otherwise, you're going to keep doing that pendulum swing until you go out, and that's exhausting. And so I'm not saying anything's easy, but you just have to decide for yourself. Do you love yourself? Do you want to get back to your center? Do you want to be your authentic self? Or do you always want to be the show monkey who has to entertain everybody? Or do you want to be the person who has to run out for a fix all the time because you're constantly going in swings, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And some people, I was going to say, I don't know how long people can live like that, but we know people live like that. I mean, there are people who we reference them as addicts, right? And they're it can be the more obvious, right? Because they they become, it's almost like the punching bag, to be honest, because they become the example. You know what I mean? Where they're used as the example all the time. And then you see them go out that way. You see them die of the addiction or die of the opposing. So in this case, the addiction, if it was they needed a drug to get high, and I think, forgive me because I love this man, but I just feel like everybody loved this man, so everybody knows this story, where I think he did get addicted to cocaine at one point. And so it's like maybe he did have to be on that to get as high as he was getting after a time, right? He probably didn't for years. And then after a while, he's probably like, I'm fucking exhausted. So to get this high, I'm going to have to do something to perk me the fuck up. And again, I'm making major assumptions and I'm just trying to use an example. So please, I love the man. And so he just actually gave me a wink. He's here with me. You have to sometimes use that stuff to get that high. And that actually made me feel good that he did that because I love him. I wouldn't want anybody to take that the wrong way. And then you can, sorry, that shocked me that that occurred. So if we have to take stuff, then that we get addicted to that. And so you either go out by the addiction of, in this case, let's just say like cocaine, and then you go out, or you end up, the other swing is the low, the depression, in such a state of depression, and you could commit suicide, right? So it's like either extreme will take you out. This is why, again, I joke about it, but just to give you visual imagery for understanding so you can take control, it's like, think of it as a narcissist. So play the fucking dead rock. You got to get back to your authentic self. That doesn't mean play the dead rock, be dead and dumb. No, I mean you need to get back to your center. Stop swinging any which way for an outside reaction, right? You need to feel good in you all the time. And in order to do that, you have to learn how to balance oneself. And in order to balance oneself, you have to know oneself. And a lot of us have gotten so far from oneself, we don't know who the fuck we are. We don't. You've heard me talk about this many a times. I only knew how to fuss over others outside myself, to please others, to make sure everybody else is comfortable, make sure everybody else is happy, make sure everybody else is, and because it fucking feels good. It does feel good, right? It feels good to be around other people that feel good. And if you're the one making sure everybody feels good, but we've already been through this. This is no way to be, right? And so it takes a time to get back to who we are and to learn these lessons. And then share them however you share them, whatever your lessons are, because that's all of us are ever doing, right? Especially in our form of art. And a lot of people are doing art because they haven't learned the lesson. So they're doing it out of their anger or their rage. And that's not necessarily bad. It's a way to sometimes express ourselves and to get it out. And eventually, this is why you'll see sometimes artists change over time, right? Because they were at one point expressing out of those lower energies, which was wonderful. Thank God they expressed it through art versus through a punching bag or meaning a human, or harming another any which way outside themselves. So it's, and then, that you slowly see their evolution in their art over time, which is a beautiful thing. And anyway, I hope you heard that message because I feel like it's a really good key for a lot of people when you can't seem to get back to you and you find yourself doing those swings. Determine what your swings are, right? Figure out what they are and see if you can start to slow down enough. You don't have to stop anything tomorrow, but it's like the idea of like, okay, yep, I got it. I do swing. All right. And when do I feel best? What exactly am I doing? All right. So like I bet you he would say in this instance, Robin Williams would likely say he felt his best probably when he was entertaining, when he was on stage, when he was performing, when he was doing something. But he wasn't. And again, he could be phenomenal at that. It's not that it was bad. It's just at some point we become codependent on that high and it starts to get utilized as a crutch. How do I explain that? Because I don't want you to ever think that that's bad to do that. That's great to go, sometimes that's a beautiful profession to get in. It's a way to do drama without having drama in your day-to-day life, right? To express outside oneself. But in this example, though, they're showing it like it became like a side effect or like a a consequence of always having to be the one to make everybody laugh. But then it became like almost like required. And again, I don't know the man, so this might not be the case at all. I'm just trying to use this as an example where it's like you then become like required to be that entertainer or that person on all the time, when he didn't stand up for himself and say, that's not who I am 24/7. Instead, he just wanted to keep the peace, and he liked to see everybody happy. But then it required him to have the highs and the lows, the dips, because it becomes such an exertion of generic, like generated artificially, right? He wasn't being his authentic self at times, which causes the swings. Whenever we're not authentic to ourselves, whenever we are abandoning ourselves for whatever fucking reason, because you could think that's a really fucking good reason, right? Man, I can't tell, who doesn't love him? Honest to God, have you ever heard anybody say one bad thing about the man? He was just a bowl of love. Everybody just, I've never, ever, literally ever have seen or heard or read anything that wasn't just praising how spectacular of a man he was. But that also fed into that, right? Like nobody got to see him. I'm sure they did. I'm sure his family saw him. But do you hear what I'm saying? It's like you get to the point where, yeah, okay. I could go on and on. Let's not. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. You can now purchase an audio journey with me using the link below.